Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. Jenny Gilruth was being questioned yesterday, and she didn't like the questions. And she does what most politicians do when they find a question that's unfortunate for them, shall we say, that they don't want to answer, that would be embarrassing or personally embarrassing, politically embarrassing, or which would make the government look in a bad light. And what is that? What is that action that they do? They answer a completely different question and go on the attack about the opponent's policies. Much easier to do that, of course, than to address your own shortcomings for being the minister in charge of a department that is failing so spectacularly and so publicly. And she was, of course, asked specifically about the reduction in places for Scottish students at university. They keep on about how wonderful it is to have all these free university places and then cutting the numbers because they can't afford them. They're very loud to announce the freeness. They're very quiet when it comes to the cuts. Of course, they're not cutting places for foreign students. Oh no, they need the money. It's a very strange thing to do, to pretend that you're pro-Scottish and yet you're encouraging foreigners to come in and study at the places that should go to the homegrown talent. Let's have a look to see how badly she did in this questioning session. Here goes. So Jenny Gilruth rants about migration and calls the UK government opponents when asked about a cut in Scottish university students. And she's doing the usual thing. It's the SNP. They've got a problem. They're really making a mess of what they do. So, of course, it's Westminster's fault. The opponents. Not our partners in authority. Not the overall government. But no, they see them as the enemy. That is the mindset of the SNP. Westminster is not someone you work with. It is the enemy. Oh, dearie me. You won't answer the question, will you? The Scottish Government's Education Secretary was grilled by MSPs about the cut in funding for university students and attacked Westminster over questioning about whether the institutions would now be reliant on foreign students. Well, of course they are. They give all this big mouthy thing. Look at us, aren't we wonderful, aren't we marvellous? We're giving free education, whether you can afford to pay for it or not. Meanwhile, we're cutting the numbers because we can't afford to pay for it. Do you know, if you'd have just said, rather than free education, let's just have a nominal fee, a few £1,000s. You'd still fill the halls. People could still afford it. But the amount of spaces could be increased tremendously, doubled, possibly even trebled on the back of it. But that doesn't go with the policy, does it? You need to have free education so you can shove one to the man. Well, the man doesn't care. Westminster don't care. But what they are having to do is pick up your slack. Jenny Gilruth ranted about the UK government's migration policy and called them opponents after being questioned about the huge cut in spaces for Scottish students at university. And she was criticised for citing inaccurate figures, as she claimed that only 1,200 Scots will miss out on places in higher education. Gosh, just think, the SNP using the wrong figures, using inaccurate figures to try and spin the fact that they are failing so spectacularly. Yes, but if we tell them lies, they might not pick up on those lies and they might think that we're doing better than we actually are. Yeah, that's what we'll do. We'll lie. It's not as though they do that before, is it? We previously told how Shona Robertson confirmed that due to the lack of COVID funding, the SNP... Well, of course there is. COVID's finished years ago. The SNP was slashing the budget for universities by $28.5 million, with this leading to a reduction in how many funded spaces there are for pupils finishing secondary schools in Scotland. $28.5 million. That's like 3 months' worth of spin doctors in the NHS. That's the amount the budget is going to be for all the foreign embassies. That's about a fifth of what the Independence Department at run by Jamie Hebbon spends. Gosh, they can't find a few bits of cash for students. That's odd, isn't it? The Nationalists always boasted about how higher taxes help fund the likes of free education, but that, we know, is bollocks. Scottish Government's Education Secretary was grilled about this by MSPs on Holyrood's Education Committee on Wednesday. With Scottish Tory MSP Liam Kerr asking about what she can do to help educational establishments which now may have to rely on foreign students to fill the funding black holes. Basically, yeah, cut the number of locals because, we can't afford them, massively increase the foreigners coming in because we need their money, and the people of Scotland, well, it'd be nice if you could have had an education, but you're not going to get one. But it's all part of the plan to dumb down the nation for when they get their independence. They want a very subservient, docile, uneducated nation. Don't want anyone clever enough to question them. Miss Gilruth launched into a rant about the UK government's migration policy, which has got nothing to do with Scottish education. She said one of the real challenges are the changes made to immigration rules, which make it far more difficult for universities to attract outside students from outward Scotland, and international students actually, because they were put off by the immigration rhetoric coming from the UK government and the rules about what might be for visas. That's funny because you know what? The universities in England, they don't seem to have this problem. It's almost as though Jenny Gilroy, I'm thinking of what's his, see his face, he used to be on Les Dawson, Alex Gilroy. Anyway, slip of the tongue, a tangent. We'll get back. But the fact is, it doesn't affect UK students, so it's almost as though you're looking for an excuse that doesn't exist to try and hide the fact that you aren't in control, that you don't know what you're talking about, and that it's all passing you by and all too much for you. She said some of the challenges here, particularly in relation to international students, does not rest with the Scottish government. Yes, it does. You've got the same rules in Scotland as you have in England, because immigration is not a devolved matter. The rules are the same. And if England can do it, why can't Scotland? It must be what is devolved that's causing the problem. And that would mean education. It's all bollocks, isn't it? The woman sits there and she's desperate to distract and point away and blame other people for what is essentially her fault. Her department is failing. They cannot do what they want to do. They've got the devolved powers for education and they've screwed it up royally. Charge £2,000 a term for domestic students and bingo. All of them, the students can still afford it. But here's the thing, you've got all that extra money, you don't need all the foreign students, you can get more local students in, and Scotland becomes a cleverer place filled with brighter people pushing forward. But that's not, of course, what you want, is it? She said some institutions in Scotland are just now being harmed by immigration decisions taken by other government elsewhere. Name one. It's not a Scottish issue, it's a UK issue, and if England can manage it, why can't Scotland? She said, it's not my responsibility as Cabinet Secretary for Education in Scotland to mop up the mess of a government elsewhere around its approach to international students and immigration. No, it's your job as the Education Secretary in Scotland to fix the problems that you and your department and your government have caused directly by massive underinvestment over many, many years and making a policy decision that is so bad it's created the problem in the first place, and lacking the balls to fix your own problems by saying, okay, we are going to have to admit that we need to put a small fee onto university funding. But you won't do it, will you? Because you're still beholden to the great Sturge and her plans for free education. For some reason, this woman will soon be in prison with any luck. Are you still going to be following her policies? Because they seem to be the policies of criminals. You're going to end up in prison with her. Well. Miss Gilruth was talking about Rishi Sunak's tweaking of immigration rules, which barred foreign students from bringing family members on dependent visas. That's fine. Don't have a problem with that. They're here to learn, not to have a social life. If they don't want to come here, there's other universities in other countries are otherwise available. Please make a choice. It's bollocks. And it is just her failings, and she's trying desperately to deflect and point the finger elsewhere. How about picking up your own bed and lying in it, Jenny Gilruth? You made the mess. Your department's failing. The whole government is failing. Can't blame Westminster for everything. I'm coming up. Time and time again, it's the same old sad story, isn't it? Oh, we've cocked up, but we'll blame Westminster. Big boy did it and ran away. Oh, it was someone else. It wasn't me. Oh, I can't remember what we've done. That wasn't our plan. It was unforeseen circumstances. It was decisions made elsewhere. bullshit and bollocks, and we all know it. Jenny Gilruth, grow up, accept responsibility, say sorry, and then fix the damn problem, and stop blaming other people for your inadequacies, stupidity, ignorance, and ineptness. Do your job or quit and let someone else have a go. I'll stop there. Thank you very much. Do please hit the subscribe button, and I will speak to you later. Bye.